Um, so, before I begin, I think I should set some context here, right? I think this entire conference has been about IoT, enterprise, AI, deep learning, some really cool technology. And personally, I'm a fan of technology. I have a background in marketing and business. For the longest time, I've been in digital marketing. Uh, but I think I come here less as a industry veteran, like from the likes of the kind of people probably you have seen on the stage, and more as a consumer. And I'm here to essentially scratch my own itch, right? And when I say this from the bottom of my heart of how sucky it is to adopt a smart home, right? It's really difficult to buy technology, to adopt technology, and to do something for your own home, for your own peace of mind, or to reduce energy, or reduce your costs, right? So I think with that context, I'll just start, right? Um, how many of you have seen this image? So if you have seen this image, you probably know that this is from a listicle on BuzzFeed, where they listed some of the worst products that are out there in terms of design, right? So when probably the designer who made this glass, he was like, I'm going to make a wine glass which is going to be amazing. It's going to, be disruptive, right? What you have heard a lot in this conference, right? But does this really help, right? Of course, no one can really drink from this wine glass. Another example, right? Some genius actually thought that he should make such a, I don't even know if this is a slide. I mean, I don't even know what this does, right? But yeah, someone thought that, hey, you know what? I'm going to make something in this garden, and it's going to be a slide, and it's going to be an innovative slide. It's going to look something completely different. But obviously, the kids were not very happy with it, and no one's probably using this. Now, again, I'll probably bring some context back to technology here. What you see here, if there are a lot of technology fans here, I'm sure a lot are there, you might be familiar with this tool. It's called Google Wave, right? Google has been, Google is known obviously for, for search, but they've always experimented with new products and new technology out there. And one of the things that they did was, I think about 10 years back, they came up with something called as Google Wave, right? And at the heart of it, this tool essentially allows you to collaborate, right? And I think it was a great tool when it came out, but it didn't really suit the needs of the end user. So folks were using Microsoft Office to collaborate. We were using email to collaborate, but enterprises really never found any use for something called as Google Wave, because when you look at Google Wave, you don't know what it is. Is this an instant messenger? Is this something like email because it has, inbox, history, spam, and or is it something where you can chat with your teams? And one of the features in Google Wave was essentially to allow users to actually see when someone else is typing something on the other end, right? And at that time, it was a big deal because you could not see what the opposite person was doing, whether that person was typing, responding, or what he was doing, right? And this turned out to be a failure. They shut this product. And what you see here is the rendition of one of the features from that Google Wave, which is essentially Google Docs as we know it, right? What we use, Google Suite, a lot of you guys might be using it in your enterprise, in your organization, to actually collaborate, add comments, collaborate on Word documents together, and so on and so forth. There is a point I'm trying to drive here, right? And my point is simple. Is this what is happening with IoT, smart homes, home automation? As a consumer, I think yes, right? Are we impacting lifestyle with smart home automation products, with home IoT, or are we simply selling features, right? If you look at trying to get home automation done, most of the times you are sold features by the system integrators or the people you are speaking with. No one is really providing solutions to problems. And there's a reason for it, because there is essentially no customer centricity, right? You are building great deep learning tools. You are building a tool that allows you to train, as you see in the previous presentation, that basis color, you can have GIFs being responding and all of that. And I think that's great, right? But at the center of it, there are end users who are going to use this technology, and there are end users who are going to benefit it, and that's going to actually determine whether you're going to make it or break it in the market. And probably this is one of the reasons that you don't really see a mainstream product or service or a mainstream device that's really taking over the world and saying, hey, you know what, we have cracked the smart home space. Of course, there are several other challenges which I'll elucidate as we go along with the presentation. But here I'm just starting off with something as simple as this, right? Any of you guys have seen this, or ever integrated this in your house, right? This is essentially a typical wall plug outlet, right? And it has two USB, USB plugs as well. And this essentially eliminates you having to use any of those adapters that come with your cell phone, right? So you are at home, whether you have an iPad, whether you have an iPhone, whether you have an Android phone, you typically take that cable and you directly plug it into the wall socket. And for me, when I was trying to get this done, I actually never knew that something like this exists, right, as a consumer. But as a consumer, I did know that, there's a lot of clutter in my house. I was using an Android device at that time. My wife was using an iPhone device, and we were trying to figure out how do we actually, we are redoing our home. How do we actually integrate better technology to make life more efficient? And I went about looking for these wall plugs, and for an incremental cost, I got it from GM, and GM Switches essentially sells these kind of plugs. Unfortunately, not many people know about it, right? But it solves a problem. If you have used Chromecast, you probably know before Chromecast, again, if you're an early adopter, there was a startup in Bangalore called TV, which created a streaming device that allowed you to watch movies directly from BitTorrent. So you drag and drop a torrent into your laptop, and it directly streams those movies on your television, right? And you essentially invest like $1,500 in that streaming stick, and you end up watching free movies at home. The startup is, I think they've either shut down or they're not really building too much. They probably, that company actually diversified it, doing smartphones and so on and so forth. And I don't think they're pushing too much on this product anymore, because the big guys are here. There's Amazon Prime Video stake. Streaming video has taken off in India as well. Not as much, but people are now starting to adopt that. So people are going off of torrents, and I think downloading torrents has also become very difficult. If you are a pirate, then probably you know what I'm talking about. I'll give you another example of a device that I use. This is so let me give you some context, right? Me and my wife, we both work full time. We start off our days 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. We end up coming up late night, post, around dinner time. And in between, there are a lot of people who come into our house, right? And we were trying to figure out what are the solutions out there in the market that helps us monitor what's happening in our house. We ended up talking to a lot of home automation experts. Everyone sold us devices or products that need to be installed, that require wiring and the whole jing bang, and the cost went upwards of 50 grand or something. I ended up finding a product which is an IP camera. This is the Motorola Hubble. This gives me motion detection and alerts when someone comes into my house. It's live streaming. I pay a small fee if I want to have recording, or I can use it for free, and I can actually detect motion as in when I want to see what's happening in my house, right? And it's fabulous. When I brought this, my wife thought I was an idiot, right? Because she thought that, you think technology can replace human beings, you think technology can solve all your lifestyle problems, but this is dumb. And right now, every time she leaves the house, she ensures that the app works well, right? And she tells me that it's great that you bought it, right? I think I was able to do that because I'm a good marketer at heart. And obviously, she's my wife and I understand her problems, and I was able to identify what solution would actually work for her life and for her problems. But I think it's the larger vision here and the larger focus is to start thinking about customers when we start building technology, right? And I think that's at the heart of the challenges when it comes to adopting technology. We are selling way too many features and less solutions to actual lifestyle nuances. So again, a very cheesy thing that I did was I tried to make this relevant to the audience in Hyderabad. So I actually looked up online for names of the most common names in South India or in Telugu, and I got Vijay. So I said, let me have a hypothetical character called Vijay and let me start talking about it. Maybe that'll get some attention. So pardon me if I am not accurate there. but that was the attempt. Think of Vijay living in Hyderabad who's not tech savvy, right? Uh, that's his family, wife and a daughter. Very stereotypical picture, so apologies for that, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what was going through my head. But yeah, I think at least it's setting context, right? When you polarize things and polarize people, it becomes entertaining. So Vijay is married, he has a daughter, and he's planning to design his home, right? This guy is not having a farmhouse. He's not having a couple of crores in his bank account to automate his home, or he's not having like 20, 30 lakhs worth of budget to start using technology. He's probably going to get a contractor who is going to, design his furniture for his house. He's going to try to, haggle with an interior designer and say, hey, you know what, why don't you reduce your fee? And he will end up working with a contractor and realize that, you know what, I can design my home by myself. I have websites that give me ideas. I can read up stuff, right? I am a savvy, 35-year-old individual connected to the internet. I understand these things. I have the power to design my home, right? And us Indians, we love to think that way, that we have the power to do things even which is outside our comfort zone, right? So he goes about researching for it. He gets to know that there are different kinds of plywoods, there are different types of, different types of veneers, and so on and so forth. And there's so much that goes on in interior design. So, he puts on a hat for the next 6 months as a pseudo interior designer, haggles with the contractor, gets the best fee, gets his home done, and he's super proud that he got a great home in place, right? And then he probably says, you know what, I think I should also get technology, right? And I'm going to buy a smart TV. I'm going to get Wi-Fi set up. I was staying in a rented apartment. That guy never let me, break the wall. I'm going to be able to do so many things here. But the truth is, when he actually goes out, tries to do home automation, he's kind of stuck up. And I really don't blame him, because I have been there and I have scratched my head wondering what's the right solution, because almost everyone was telling me that this is what my solution can do. You can use my app to do this. You can use my app to do that. But I don't think home IoT or smart or connected devices or all of these things are about that. There is a level 2 to it, right? So Vijay is simply saying that I not only want beautiful interiors, but I want a fully functional and efficient house. Now, just think about it for a second when I say this. Let me drop a statistic here. In the last 5 years, in the major metros of India, 25%, there's been a reduction in the square foot area of newly built houses by more than 25%. So you can imagine the number of, if you go out and buy a flat right now, vis-a-vis compared to something you bought probably 5, 10 years ago, you can imagine the size of those bedrooms, right? And I think it's a reality. If you go out and try to buy a home, the size of homes have really, really decreased, right? And when the size of your house decreases, you start having more multifunctional uses for it, because as a consumer, your demands are only increasing, right? You're having more work from home, right? You are